I just want to point out that for those people who watched that one video on my friend's YouTube channel that think I died, apparently, I'm not actually dead. It's a joke. But yeah, I really wanted to start that video out strong with that. Apparently, a lot of people think I died. So, yeah, but we'll get into the video in a sec. Alrighty, so this is going to be the first episode of a series that I I wanted to start for a while now, which was like some kind of story time or something like that, where I just sit here and I talk about things that have happened in my past or whatever, ranging from yesterday to whenever. Excuse me. And like the other day when I did my video called "Okay," I started talking about my was it my French class. I remember seeing it wasn't comments specifically, but in the Discord, I remember people telling me, "Wow, your French class was wild." So I was like, you know what, that's interesting because I have had many things like that story happen. So I'm gonna start. I'm gonna do this episode, and this is gonna be like episode one of this series, I guess you can call it. And who knows when it'll finish? Probably when I run out of things to talk about. But um, yeah. Uh, if you guys have any like questions or anything about the story, just put them in the comments. Wait till the end of the video, of course, because I could still probably answer the question in the middle of the video. But yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna start the story. So episode one is gonna be about me talking about my. It's gonna be me talking about my what's it called, my French class again. I'm gonna be talking about the French class and the different other things that like kind of happened while I was in it. You know, there's many different things like subcategories that I've listed off that I'm like, yeah, we could do that. We could talk about this and that. Me actually yesterday, me and Keith sat down and we had like a conversation about what we could talk about. We started talking about all the funny things that used to happen. So I have like many different topics to talk about. Just I wanted to do all the grade 9 French stuff. I wanted to start off with that since you guys liked it from the other video. I wanted to do that in this video as well. And yeah, I'll I got subcategories. We'll go based off of that, and yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this one. But like I said, it's French class again this episode. We're gonna talk about everything that happened in that class, so then the French class could be over with, or maybe just a few things that happened in the class, and then we can have more to talk about later. But you know, we can have this in like episode one, part one, part two. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'll I'll start off. There's many things that happened in that class. It was nuts. You have no idea. My grade 9 year was absolutely insane. Like it was crazy. Just my first year in high school, it was nuts. So you see, this is like the year I start meeting people, making new friends and all that stuff, and I'm like, you know what? That's it's all right. We'll I start meeting people. The first semester goes pretty well, squeaky clean. I'm just getting used to the school, trying not to make myself a big embarrassment yet. And second semester comes by, and that's when I have my French class. My French class was third period. There was 4 periods in a day, or there is 4 periods in a day. It was third period was always French class, so this was right after lunch and we would all come in. We'd all be really rowdy for that teacher just because we were just outside running around, goofing off with our friends and stuff like that, and going out and doing things and all that stuff. So this class was always a living hell for the teacher and the class itself. So it was interesting to say the least. So like I said in the other video a couple days ago, there was many different things. I told you about the English teacher, but that's not going to be about the English teacher this time. It's just going to be about what the class did in that class. So there's many things. I have there was I'll name one. There was dancing. All right. I'll go off on the dancing part because the dancing part was funny. There were two kids in my class. They were the most rowdy, I would say, in that class. There was obviously others among them, but there was the two that were the most rowdy, and these two had some weird thing with trying to outperform each other. So they would do one thing and then they'd feed off of each other and start doing it more and more and just getting out of hand kind of thing. And it was very interesting. Anyways, one of the things they would do would be dancing with each other in class, and you could tell when they started dancing it was going to be good because they started out strong. They were already running, like pretty well running around the desks at that point, and just like this. Keep in mind, this is grade 9. These are 14-year olds, 14, 15-year olds running around their desk acting like fools pretty much. And yeah, they started out with dancing, screaming at each other on the other side of the room and all that stuff, and then they took it to next level and stuff. And pretty well, they would only do this when the teacher's back was turned. She'd be writing something on the chalkboard, trying to get something down. So this is like French class, so she's trying to teach us how to say some things, how to pronounce some things, what certain parts of the words and stuff like that mean. We can take those parts out and make that into another word, all that stuff. And I remember we were there were the desks were in clumps of 5, but I was in the only desk that was a clump of 4, and one of the kids sat right next to me, and this man, I shit you not, climbs up on the table and starts doing Fortnite dances in the middle of the class as the teacher's back is turned. And then he gets off the desk, sits down, she turns around, doesn't see it, doesn't hear it, doesn't say anything on it, turns back around. The other kid on the other side of the class starts doing it too. So he climbs up on the desk and he starts doing Fortnite dances, like, doing the floss and the default dance and stuff like that, and doing some weird stuff with that. And I was like, okay, well, what are these two doing? And it got to the point where they started making noises while doing it so that they had to get the teacher to turn around, and they were trying to get one another. They were trying to get each other caught so that it would end in yeah. It was interesting. Having these memories fly past my brain is hilarious because at the time it was hilarious and it's still hilarious to this day because this teacher was completely clueless. She was completely she had no idea any of this was happening until they caught or until she caught them that one day. And she turns around and sees the kid next to me on the desk dancing, and she calls him out, tells him to get off the desk, and what is he doing, and all that stuff. And he just replies, "With me and Josh, we're having a dance battle." I'm just gonna use Josh as his fake name, or for the other kid on the room, anyways. It was it's Jeremy and Josh. That's their names. Jeremy's the kid who sat next to me, and Josh is the other kid. And he was like, me and Josh are trying to have a dance battle, and she was like, in my class, are you two kidding me right now? Go to the office. I was like, oh, things got pretty heavy pretty quickly, but it doesn't stop there. There was so many different things that happened in that class. That was only a small tad bit of it. It's nothing too major, but it starts getting really major. I'll get into some of those points later. But the next one was my friend. He had a Bluetooth speaker. He would bring that into class with him and stuff like that, and he would have like two or three of them on him, and he would always, since he would have the three of them, he thought one time, hey, why not just play something from it and have the teacher scare the crap out of the teacher or something like that. So what he did was he would sit the other side of the room with me. He would come up to me and he would slide a speaker in my desk, and I would like slide it over to the kid next to me, which was, it was Jeremy next to me, just slide it on over to him. He'd hold on to it, and then he would start playing music from his phone as somebody else would connect their phone to another one of the speakers and have it on the other side of the room, and it would be like it was weird. The teacher would turn around, whose phone is that? And turn it off now. And then the other side of the classroom would start blasting some other music and stuff like that. And it was, since it was three speakers, it was three different songs at three different positions in the class, and it confused the hell out of the teacher. The teacher's like running around the classroom trying to get a hold of everybody again, trying to figure out what what's going on and all that stuff. And it was hilarious. It was actually funny. That was actually funny because she was trying to get all the speakers. She couldn't. She only found one of them, and then when we realized the other speakers were going to get taken too, we turned them off and hid them, and that's when that's about the time the vice principal and stuff like that started getting called to the classroom. She started having enough of it. She said, "You know what? Enough is enough," and all that stuff, and that's where stuff starts getting weird. Um, there, we were on the second floor, right? There's two levels to my school. There's the courtyard, then there's one row of classes, and then there's a second floor above those row of classes, but they would be accessed from a different hallway up the stairs through the first row of classes. And you'd go up, and there would be windows facing into the courtyard so you could see the people down there eating, doing work, whatever. And there would be people that we would always, okay, the people in our class, like all of us, I mean all of us, would open up the windows in the back, like the far back of the class. That one window, we'd always have the excuse, it's a little hot in here, we'll just open up the window and let it air out. And at this time, my seating placement was on the other side of the room from that window. This was before I sat next to Jeremy, but we I would always grab pens and pencils, and me and my friends would also do that too. And like we just start throwing stuff out there and hearing them hit the ground afterwards. Pencils, pens, like plastic pencil pens, thing, mechanical pencils, and stuff like that, shattering as soon as they hit the ground. People going underneath because they weren't expecting such a loud crash. And that started escalating over the semester, and it started out with pens and pencils. Then it was paper, like little paper shavings, then paper balls. We would pass them around the class, and then the last person would have to throw it out the window and try and get it in the garbage underneath the window. Because for some reason they thought, hey, let's do this. Let's put a garbage bin underneath the window of the classes. That's totally not going to distract some students or anything. I mean, we technically shouldn't be able to see it, but there was kids that would like actively look through the windows and straight down, and they just see it. So we tried to do that. Then it went to paper airplanes, and this is where what it starts getting into that point where it was like, it's just paper airplanes, nothing too dangerous, but we would throw them like directly at people through the window, and to see their reaction of like a paper airplane or something like that whizzing past them, just hearing them scream because they weren't expecting it or something like that. And one time the vice principal's walking through the courtyard, and Jeremy goes, "Yo, I'm gonna throw this at the vice principal." And he throws it at the vice principal. The vice principal's facing away from the window, and he threw it so perfectly that it flew down. We all noticed that it was going directly at her, so we all ran away from the window and hid. So all we heard was the paper hitting something, like, the little shuffle, and then the vice principal just scream. We heard this screech coming from the courtyard. We were like, oh, you know what I mean? It was definitely something else. That class was interesting. I remember she came up to all the classes knocking. Did you guys throw something out the window? I want you guys to keep in mind the teacher was completely clueless. She had no idea. None whatsoever. She was completely clueless and oblivious to the fact that we were throwing stuff out the window of the class the whole semester, until the vice principal came up, and she made the active decision to to close the windows and keep them closed, and only change the thermometer from that point forward. So that was interesting. That was, oh my god, that was funny. I also want you guys to keep in mind that the teacher had like no issue with us or she had some issue to like a degree that if we were eating food in her class, as long as it wasn't directly in front of her, it was okay. So the people in the front of the class were never allowed to eat food, but everybody in like the back was allowed to have like a full on meal if they wanted to. And I remember the kids in the back of the class would hear like the kids in the front always complaining about how they're hungry or something, and then they'd throw like an apple at them. There'd just be apple cores and stuff like that flying around the room from that point forward. So we also had like food fights and stuff like that in the middle of class. Of course, the teacher was once again completely oblivious because she would turn around and start writing something, and she wouldn't turn around for like another 5 minutes. And that's why we were able to get away with so many things, is she just was completely oblivious. Um, there was I'm pretty sure it didn't really like get above that. It was only throwing food around the class, but then like there was things that happened that were worse than that, but it was like just the throwing food part. There wasn't much else that happened beyond just throwing it at the kids in the front and the back and stuff like that. So it wasn't like too major. Nobody got hurt while we were doing it and all that stuff. So now this is when things start getting a little bit weirder. Um, I want you guys to know this, that there was Jeremy and Josh would crawl like around the classroom from time to time. They would like crawl, and like kids would give them things to bring to other students, and the teacher would always turn around, "Where's Matthew?" or something. Matthew's a name for another one of the kids that were also crawling around the class. There was the three of them crawling around the class. Matthew was a friend of Josh and Jeremy. They would just like crawl around the classroom, and it was like, whoa, that's funny, and stuff like that. So they would like they would grab things and pass each other. And one time, Josh and Jeremy, they like walked into each other, and then I remember hearing, "Hey, watch where you're going," because they would always try to rat like each other out because it was just funny to do that. And he stands up and points down at the floor. The teacher spins around and is like, "Josh, what are you doing out of your seat?" And he's like, "Jeremy crawled to me," and then Jeremy stands up and he goes, "I didn't do that, I swear." It's like, mm-hmm. I believe you. Then she sent them to the office because of course they were disrupting the class, so they weren't learning much. So that's also why I'm terrible at French today. Although I've been learning it I was learning it from grade 4 to grade 9. So that's 5 years of French, and I still barely know how to speak it. So that's fun. But I remember there was more. Then it started taking a bit further, like kids would be passing papers and stuff. Then it got to passing like dirt. Like I'm pretty sure I told you guys about the plants, people pouring pop into the plants and stuff like that. Well, they would grab fertilizer out of that, put it in their hands and tell them to give it to another student and stuff. And then that's where this scenario came from. Uh this kid in my class had a lighter, and the kid next to him knew how to like roll up joints and stuff like that. And what happened was he asked for dirt and paper from somebody, and they gave it to him, and he rolled it up like a joint. And then he asked the kid next to him for a lighter, and he lit it. But he didn't. For some reason, he didn't think it would catch on fire, and it caught on fire. And then he blew it out quickly and tried hiding it, and the teacher just smells the smoke. The whole room just reeks of smoke. And she's like, "Do you guys smell something burning?" It's like, if you smell something burning, you should already assume that something's burning and just immediately tell everybody to leave the classroom and stuff like that. But she then calls one of she calls the principal, like the actual principal, over to the classroom, and he comes in, and that whole side of the classroom that smelled like just, it was where the smell was coming from. They had to, or they did a bag search. But pretty well what this kid did to hide was he put the burnt joint, he shoved it down his pants and hid it like right where his balls are so that they didn't touch him there. He had some feeling they wouldn't. And they didn't do a pat down. They only checked bags, but he put it in his pants and uh, for the lighter, he gave it back to the person who owned the lighter, and the person who owned the lighter had a messy bag all the time. It was always full of like empty chip bags and all that. And they didn't check the chip bags. They only checked to see what was in the bags. So he put it in the chip bags, and he like just kind of threw it back in there. And when they searched it, they just looked in there. They didn't see anything, and just before they got to searching my desk, I got dismissed to leave for a doctor's appointment, which was only perfect timing because then I didn't have to get my bag checked. Not that I had anything to hide, but it's weird when you have the principal or somebody like that have to search your bag because then you feel guilty of something and you're not. But the whole class got bag checked pretty much. I came. I was like, what's I was like, I'll see you guys another time, I guess. And the next day, they didn't find out who it was and stuff like that. They couldn't find anything, so they just kind of like, I guess they called the janitors to make sure there was nothing burning in the vents, and they never did that again. They never tried that. But that's where one of the big stories came from. They tried burning something in the classroom. I was like, that's that's interesting. I think that was probably one of the few really big things that I can remember. Oh wait, no, there was that other kid also, like the kid who lit the joint and stuff on fire. He also had some weird thing with pulling his pants down, so he like at random moments just pull his pants down to his ankles and pull them back up again. It was like, why? Why are you doing this? You're in grade 9. Chill out. We don't need this. We don't need to see none of this. It was really weird. It was really, really awkward because I think one time the teacher turned around just as he pulled them up and he thought he got caught and he was just standing there and the teacher asked him what was up and he like bent over on the desk and he just moaned as loud as he could. And she was like disturbed, physically disturbed. You could see her facial expression. She was cringing so hard. She's like, oh, oh, I see. And then he was sent to the hallway. She asked him what he was doing, and he didn't tell her anything. He was just like, I don't know. I was just standing, stretching my legs. It was getting, it was getting hard. And she said, I understand that. Go back in the class. And I guess he just got off with it. So that was interesting. Um, there was also this couple in that class too that were like really, really close together, and one of the two was sitting in my little like four pod with me, Jeremy. There was one of the popular kids there too, and then there was him who was dating the girl at the front of the class. And she'd always, whenever there was like a presentation or like an oral presentation where we had to like say something in French or we had to like present something in French, she would always hide in, like the back of the class behind him. And I think what happened one time is they were making out in the class and they were a little loud about it, and then the teacher saw them. She caught them. She caught them making out in the back of the class. I was like, ugh, I can't imagine. Myself, I couldn't imagine getting caught making out with your significant other in a classroom. Like your teacher just coming up to you and telling you to stop that. Having the whole class look at you guys sitting on the floor holding hands and stuff like that. It was just like, I feel so bad for them. You know what I mean? But it was funny. It was also kind of funny that that happened too because the way she took it like a personal offense. The teacher, I don't know what it was like. The kids, you know what? That's all right. They like each other or whatnot. Of course, there's gonna be some kind of fooling around. Like they weren't taking it a step further. They were just making out, which I guess is kind of weird in itself. But she like got up and she took it personally, like to the heart. She was like not like the teacher took it personally to the heart. She was livid for some reason. She was screaming, telling them to pack their stuff up and leave, go to the office and stuff. It was like, bro, chill, chillax. Just send her to the front of the class and sit her down. Like, come on. Anyways, it was super weird, but I think that's majority of what happened. Like, I'm trying to remember exactly what happened in that class, and I'm probably missing so many of the stories that happened in that class because every single day it was something new in that class. And I want you guys to know that an average semester is, well, it's half the school year. So it's like from February to the end of June. How many months is that? Hold on. I'm pretty sure it's like 5 months, 4 months. Yeah, it's 5 months. Start at the beginning of February and end at the end of June, so it's 5 months. Um, and they would always like, I don't know. It was always something new in that class. It was always Jeremy and Josh too. Those two were the ones that were doing the most. But they like the dancing after they were caught the first time they didn't stop. The crawling after they were caught that one time they didn't stop. They would sometimes scream things at each other from the other side of the class. That class is just a living hell, and it will forever go down in my brain. It will never die down. I will always think back onto that class whenever things are going to shit and remember, yeah, this it's not as bad as that class. Unless it is bad, like worse than that class, then maybe I won't think about that because I mean it was just a French class, so it was just complete hell, but it was it was interesting. I would also think back to that just sometimes when I'm bored, but anyways, that's that story. That's also our episode 1 done. I don't know. I should have probably taken it a bit slower, in my opinion. I think. Hold on. I think this episode it was pretty good. It wasn't terrible, but I should have probably taken it a little bit slower. I should have. Excuse me. I should have relaxed. You know. I mean, I'm not really like tense or anything. Just I should have explained things more. Although I can't really remember the exact things that happened, I remembered some of them. Like, there were some good things in that class, some bad things in that class. That class, that class was just weird, man. Plants and stuff would die. People were loud and obnoxious. There was a mess. There was people getting hurt all the time. It was just weird. It was a weird class. It was a very, very big. Actually, it was a smaller class. There was like 20 of us in there. I mean, now that's like average class size, but it was at the time that was pretty small for the rest of the school. So we'd average around 30 students per class. So it was a little weird. But I guess that's all the time I have for this video. I hope you enjoyed this first episode of the series. I don't think all the other episodes are going to be as long as this one because they're going to be like small. I was trying to keep this video under 10 minutes, but I ended up making it almost 30. So we'll let this one slide. It's the first episode. We'll claim it an introduction to the, as I put in quotation, introduction. We'll let it slide. This intro's good. The outro intro. Oh my god! I swear to God. As I was saying, it's all the time we have left for this video. I tried making it smaller than 10 minutes. Didn't work out. Rest of the videos should be, but this one is not going to be. And that's pretty painfully obvious. These should be smaller, like, smaller episodes, like weird things. This might be like things I got away with, I guess. Like there might be like a few things that were weird, and stuff like that. Like there's some weird stuff. I My high school years have been interesting. I'll say interesting. There's many different instances, but I think when things were really weird or I had more stories would be in middle school. So a lot of these episodes are going to be about grade 7 and 8. So at this time I'm like 12 and 13, I think. 12, 13, 14-ish area. I don't remember my age at the time, but it was weird stuff. But yeah, I want to cover a lot more of the middle school stuff because there's a lot of really interesting stories from around that time. They're going to be like smaller stories, hopefully shorter. I'll try and explain in a bit, like what I remember from it, anyways. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a thumbs up. It'll help me get on the algorithm better, which will have me show up and recommended more often, and people will see this video as well. Subscribe if you haven't already. I am planning on making more content like this every day. If you haven't already, go follow me on Twitch. I stream on the weekends, preferably on Saturdays and Sundays. I stream for about an hour or two, and I play video games. Obviously, it's always video games. There's nothing else I can do really other than talk. But yeah. Anyways, I wish you all a very great day. Peace.